Hey guys, we are live. You can see me now waiting at this 1K PLO table, making a bluff here on this 10K PLO table, not succeeding. And gonna add some tables momentarily. I did rush this just a little bit. We're on a 3-minute delay today, not a 5-minute, as I'm just playing cash games. Me and this guy are the only people in the pool. There actually just was a pool, and it broke right before I started. I was excited to join it, and then I just hopped on really quickly in hopes that it formed once again, but we'll see. I'm going to check raise this flop with middle set. Plenty of games to choose from right now on right once, so I'm going to hop in a few different things, and I'll be chatting with you all momentarily. Let's go with 20 NL to start. How's everybody doing today? We decided to check this back on the flop, call turn, and it's interesting because, I think this is worth a value bet against a lot of weak competition. I don't think this player is weak, and so it gets kind of close. I'm going to go for it. The reason it's a value bet against weak competition is that they don't check call with stronger hands than this, and they don't do much check raising unless they have Jack-Jack or Jack-10. So what ends up happening is they just check a range that is mostly worse than this. But the problem with going too crazy value betting there with Ace-Jack is that Ace-Jack is if he were to have bet on the larger side, I have a bluff catcher and one that I'm not thrilled about putting in money with. I would have had to call, but kind of close. And so I talked about this a little bit yesterday. But if I start value betting everything that would call, then that's an exploitable strategy because he can just check anything very strong and make more money by picking off, getting those value bets and then also some bluffs. DK, Junior 13, JR 13, that's a really unfortunate run that you've been on. I don't know that I've been on a bad run of that magnitude. I don't think I have. I know people who have. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. You said it's killing your motivation to grind. I think it's worth considering taking a short break. A lot of times when you are on such a brutal downswing, I mean, obviously it depends on what you're able to do, financially speaking, or a lot of things that I just can't know the answer to because I don't know you well enough. But taking a break and finding a way to reset mentally can be very helpful when going on a run that ugly. So that's something I would suggest. I think what happens sometimes when you're in a downswing is that you, like you said, lose the motivation to grind, but it comes from a place of not being excited about poker and not wanting to. This is a clear check because he's representing 7x, I think, and he either has 7x or a bluff. Sometimes I'll have straights, but I'm representing aces, so jacks would not be a value bet. When I say representing, I use that term loosely. But anyways, yeah, if you're not enjoying playing, if you're not excited to play, it's definitely going to hurt your game, no matter how strong of a player you are, how good your mental game is. Looks like here, I'll bring this down here. We were up against the bluff. He chose a hand that blocked aces and kings, had the 8 blocker and some backdoors, so it's fine. Seems fine to me. I check back the weak straight draw, weak flush draw. Get there on the turn with the second nuts. Dark Tommy It says only notes on session preferred. Yeah, I think that's the better solution, but I'm always open to feedback and suggestions. Brewer's Rub. His stack is changing because this is Zoom, and he's going to have... he's got 2 entries into this pool. I only have 1. I'm one-tabling it right now. So it's like my entry against his 2 entries, switching back and forth, it seems. And this will just be a river call. Nothing to think about. He used 7 blockers, which is very standard. Over here we call a 3-bet, Queen Jack suited, and we flop terribly. You can just let this go, even against less than third pot. It's just a bad hand. We've got an interesting hand developing over here. I c-bet and called a check raise. And, here we are. Anyways, on Run It Once, we, this is interesting. So, like, I would like some protection, but at the same time, if he check raises, I think I'm up against a set pretty often. So, just have to check back. I mean, he's still gonna like pot a set here, and I'm gonna call it, and so he's gonna win, a fair amount. This is interesting. The question is really like how many king 4 hands he's raising on the flop. I don't think he's supposed to raise a ton of them, which means that like that value bet gets a little bit worse if he's not raising a lot of king 4. I guess I'm folding 9s here. Oh, I've been very loose. I could call again there. Anyways. Twister asks, is there a big difference in the way people play tournaments in Omaha versus cash games? Personally, I find tournaments to be quite wild. Depends on the structure. I'm actually going to 4-bet again. The thing about tournaments compared to cash games is that there's like there's an element of fear and how do I say this? Because you only have 1 tournament life in a tournament, unless it's a re-entry, there's a fear of busting out of tournaments, of course, and what happens is people try to take advantage of that fear by being very aggressive. I'm going to bet this size and then check river. I think this, I mean, like, I'm repping aces, so I'm going to bet, like, basically every hand here. And this can get me called by a weaker ace. It can also get me protection from a stronger flush draw. And can avoid the situation where I check back and he plays well on the river, essentially. Am I playing PLO more than Hold'em because I like it more, or just because you're better at it? Both. I'm better at it and I like it more. I've been playing... So, I mean, a lot of people that haven't followed, like, online poker in my career don't know, but I'm basically almost primarily a PLO player. I played No Limit for the first several years of my career, but it's been over a decade since I played No Limit Hold'em seriously. It's a funny way to improve my hand, and I think I'll go with full pot. Just Ari, thank you very much. I am very new to streaming. I definitely, please don't shy away from constructive criticism or feedback for how I can improve my stream. I will not take offense, and I really want to make it as good as possible. Let's see what we got looked up by. Lush for VP. How many games of Cornhole have I won in a row? gonna have to ask Nick. I don't really recall. He chose obviously like a very weak hand to call with in terms of absolute hand strength. Just kings on this board is not strong. But he unblocks diamonds, which is part of why he called. He also blocks 5 deuce and 5-6 with his 5. So I can very much understand his call. It's important, especially when you play at a higher level, to not just think about like, you know, well, call with an ace, but fold with kings in a spot like this. But also think about how your hand interacts with and blocks, you know, the types of hands that I'm representing. So if he had a hand, let's say like ace 8-9, ace 8-9-9 with 9 high diamonds, that would probably make a worse call than this hand, just because he would, in that case, block some of my bluffs. This has been checked down to the river. I go for a small value bet. Who is Sunita? I actually don't know. Sunita is from Latvia. And, I mean, this is just a call. I think it has to be. It's obviously a bluff catcher. It's not a bad hand to bluff raise, except that I don't think he gives me credit for King Jack when I take this line. I don't know much about Sunita. Sunita's almost certainly a pro. I can tell that by, first of all, the way that he's playing, which is quite good, but also he was sitting alone in the lobby, which if he were not a pro, that would not have happened. People would have joined him. Another thing that, you know, happens on other sites that does not happen on Run It Once is that if you sit on another site and you're not a professional, they join your table instantly, and there's a wait list of 50 people, as they all have seating scripts. Whereas on Run It Once, you're going to be anonymous at your table. You're going to get a different table alias for every table that you're at, and people will not be hunting you, targeting you in the same way, and using tools that take advantage of you in the same way. So I'm actually playing without a HUD on stars. I could add one. I normally play with one, but I am on a new computer, so I don't have hands, like data against these players. But on Run It Once, we have our kind of built-in HUD information where we tell you how somebody's playing with the dynamic avatar. This is not a fold. I was trying to think if I should 3-bet flop as kind of a, I don't know, deception protection play. But I think it's just going to be a call on the flop and then a call on the turn, and then our real decision will be on the river. Or, of course, if he checks the turn to us, we have a decision. Let me go with the check. He will have some like reasonably, like, we only have 5s and 4s, so any single pair has decent equity against us, but it's quite easy to stab here too much and get check raised, not only by the nuts, but by like a 6, 7, 8 with spades or something like that, and then I fold the best hand. So I prefer to check back there. Don't get too carried away in PLO with protection betting, especially against tough opponents. This is an easy check down. Like I do have some bluffs in this spot, so I would like to make some thin-ish value bets, but this is just too thin because I need to get called basically by one pair for this to be a good value bet. Chop it up.